for a 30-year fixed loan, or more than 0.25% for any other loan other than a 30-year fixed loan. There's also a term you'll need to know for the exam known as the total interest percentage, also known as TIP for short. This is the total interest being charged on the loan expressed as a percentage. Now, another word for interest rate that you might see on the exam is also called the note rate or the nominal rate. You'll see that on the test, they may use the actual percentages or they may use the fractions. So be sure that you understand what both versions of the number would be. Now, since Tila does include the advertising of loans, it's important to note that if a trigger term is specified, then the APR, amount, and terms must also be disclosed. So some examples of trigger terms might be $800 down payment, $1,000 monthly payment, or maybe a 2.5% interest rate, etc. Now, the question is, why are these considered to be trigger terms? So the reason is because these are objective terms that trigger further disclosure. So what I mean by that is that you must qualify to receive a 2.5% interest rate or $1,000 monthly payment or an $800 down payment. So if you don't qualify for them, then you won't receive those terms, which is why further disclosure of how to qualify for those terms is needed. So some examples of non-trigger terms could be 4% APR, easy monthly payments, or terms to fit your budget, because these are all subjective examples. If you and I read an advertisement that says easy monthly payments, I may think that an easy monthly payment for me is $200 a month. But maybe you see the words easy monthly payment and you think that an easy monthly payment for you would be $400 a month. That's what we mean when we say it's subjective. So that is what makes it a non-trigger term. Now, Tila states that if a trigger term is specified, then the APR, amount, and terms must also be disclosed. Tila is also the law that established the 3-day right to rescind rule. The 3-day right to rescind rule states that a borrower has 3 days after closing the loan to change their mind about using his or her primary residence in order to refinance, receive a home improvement loan, a home equity line of credit, or a second mortgage. So let me say this in just a slightly different way. The 3-day right to rescind rule is a law that is enforced by Tila that only applies to refinancing a home, receiving a home improvement loan, opening a home equity line of credit, or establishing a second mortgage. Slight side note here. You do need to understand that the refinancing of a home loan satisfies an existing obligation and is replaced by a new obligation. You will need to know and understand that the refinancing of a home loan satisfies an existing obligation and is replaced by a new obligation. So by knowing what types of loan products the 3-day right to rescind rule does apply to, it's also important that you understand that the 3-day right to rescind rule does not apply in any other circumstances outside of refinancing, receiving a home improvement loan, opening a home equity line of credit, or establishing a second mortgage. So keep in mind, Tila states that a borrower must be given 2 copies of the notice that states a borrower's right to rescind, and the rescission period expires at midnight of the 3rd day. Day 1 is the day after signing. Now, if any money was collected and a borrower decides to rescind, escrow has 20 days to return any money collected for the loan back to the borrower. Now let's do a quick example to check your knowledge. A borrower is purchasing a home for the first time, but decides 2 days after closing that they changed their mind and they do not want to continue as homeowners, what rule states that they may rescind their home ownership? A, the 3-day right to rescind rule, B, the valid change of circumstance rule, C, the ATR rule, or D, there is no rule that would allow them to rescind their first-time home purchase. Well, we know that the answer cannot be C because we haven't discussed the ATR rule, so we can remove that as an option. Answer B can't be correct because we aren't discussing anything that would qualify as a valid change of circumstance. So that leaves us with A and D. So for this question, we need to make sure we're reading what it's asking very carefully and to use context clues. So who does the 3-day right to rescind rule apply to? Remember, the 3-day right to rescind rule applies to refinancing, receiving a home improvement loan, opening a home equity line of credit, or establishing a second mortgage. So, with the borrowers not having any of these circumstances, they do not have access to the 3-day right to rescind rule, meaning that the answer would be D.